My name is mrs.wydra. I'm the narrator for this video on Africans during the transatlantic slave trade, more specifically, the Middle Passage. The Atlantic slave trade took place through the 15th and 19th century across the Atlantic Ocean. Most of them were enslaved and transported to the New World. Triangular trade route and its Middle Passage. The Portuguese, French, British, Spanish, and the Dutch Empire were the major nations in the slave trade.
So the transatlantic slave trade is the biggest deportation in history. It is estimated that between 25 and 30 million people were deported and sold as slaves. The transatlantic slave trade happened in 3 steps. The first one was Europe for Africa loaded with goods which were exchanged for slaves. And upon their arrival in Africa, their leaders traded their merchandise for slaves. Weapons and gunpowder were the most important good, and also rum was in high demand. This exchange could last from several weeks to several months. The second step was the crossing via Atlantic. Africans were transported to the Americas to be sold throughout the whole continent. The third and final step connected America to Europe, and the slave traders, what they did was just bring back agricultural products produced by the slaves. The main products were sugar, coffee, cotton, tobacco, and rice. This circuit lasted approximately 18 months.
This is a route for the transatlantic slave trade. First they started at Europe, and then they went over here to the West Indies where they discovered the Americas. They went over here to West Africa to capture slaves. Then they went back to the Americas, and right here is what is known as the Middle Passage. Because this is the Middle Passage.
The Middle Passage is when 450 African slaves went to the colonies, which would later be known as the U.S. 2 by 2, the men and women were forced beneath the deck of the slave ships. Now, this was the fate of millions of African slaves for 3.5 centuries. Some will die of despair.
Because this is the Middle Passage.
So back here again. No. Anyways, millions of slaves were being tortured and beaten to death if they didn't cooperate with any of the shipment crew. And this was the fate of millions of slaves across the transatlantic slave trade, and most commonly known as the Middle Passage. That Middle Passage was the main route that the slaves from West Africa went to the United States. Thank you. Hey guys, thanks for watching our video on Africans for the transatlantic slave trade and the Middle Passage. My name is Jesus.
My name is Jasmine.
My name is Edgar.
I'm mrs.wydra.